And we are available. We are ready to go. And we'll just go ahead, since we're starting late, I'll just go ahead and do a countdown. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, a podcast about board games. I'm the host of The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly, Joe Sallin, joined tonight by Andrew Dennison. Hey, Andy, how's it going?
Not too bad.
And Trent Ham. Hello, Trent.
Hi, let's do this.
And we are board game reviewers, but this time we're going to turn the mirror in on ourselves, the spotlight in on the holes where our hearts should be, and talk about what a reviewer is for our topic tonight. So what does it mean to be a board game reviewer? And is it a slippery slope that you should try to climb up? We will first review some board games, or in my case, a stretch to call it a board game, or a game even, maybe. I don't mean that as an insult. Anyway, I'll get into it later. But and then we will also be hyping games. Before any of that, thanks to our sponsor, GameSurplus.com, bringing the world of board games to you at GameSurplus.com. My favorite place to go for online board games. And you'll find a lot of hard-to-find products there, especially from your import section that you might, as well as Kickstarter stuff. We recently reviewed, we recently discussed for our topic the evolution of Kickstarter and how it's changed. I just received a big old Kickstarter I'll be hyping later on in this episode. And you can find some of those Kickstarters available at GameSurplus.com. And tell them The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly sent you. There's also a recently updated podcast pick section from us with all the most recent games that you can get a discount on if you listen to the code later on in the episode. So let's see here, guys. For our to kick off our reviews, let's start with an actual board game. So that means I can't go. And let's start with one that we haven't heard from, at least not in the last couple of weeks, which means, Trent, it's all you for Uwe Rosenberg's maybe a black sheep to call it, something like that.
I think it would probably call it a black sheep compared to his other games.
In a good way, though, not like, not in the hangest way, but
yeah, it's one of his big box games, but it's not a worker placement game. So for him, that makes it unusual.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about Merkator, which is actually what I consider to be one of the gems, especially an undiscovered gem, in Uwe Rosenberg's game design catalog. Uwe's the designer of Agricola and Feast for Odin and a bunch of other games. But this one's actually quite good. Merkator is definitely a black sheep. It plays from 1 to 4 players. And I think it's out of print right now, but you might be able to find it around. I really don't know. It looks like, I'm looking real quick, it looks like it's got a price that says it's out of print, but there's still copies around. So give that for what you will. Basically, what this game is you have basically a market board in front of you. Is the best way to start describing this. And on this, you have a number of contract cards. At the start of the game, your contract cards are numbered 2, 3, 4, and 5. In this game, there are a whole bunch of stacks of contract cards with different numbers on them: 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and there's a single card that says 14 on it. That number indicates the number of victory points you're going to get for those contracts. So at the start of the game, you have 2, 3, 4, and 5. Look, you're already starting with 14 victory points. Look at you, you're a winner.
Winning.
So throughout the game, what you're essentially doing is you're choosing to go to a location on this map. There's a map that's a abstracted map, simplified map of Europe that indicates, I believe, 12 different countries on it. 8 of those countries are spots that effectively just generate cubes of a particular color. And the other 4 are special spots that work a little bit differently. So on your turn, you choose one of the 12 locations to go to. You collect all the cubes that are on that location, and you put a cube in every one that's adjacent to it on the map. Some of the locations aren't attached to anything else and also don't generate any cubes. The reason you'd want to go there is because the second part of your action is once you've chosen to go to a location and collect the cubes, you're going to fulfill the contract cards you have, the 2, 3, 4, and 5 that you start with, they essentially list a number of cubes on there that you're supposed to get, and they also list a location that you have to be at to do it. So, like, for example, if you have a contract that says France and it needs a red cube and a blue cube, Well, then you have to have chosen France for your turn and have a red cube and a blue cube to give to this contract. If you do that, hooray, you fulfilled it. And what you essentially do is your reward for fulfilling it is you draw a contract of number one higher than the one you just fulfilled. And they get progressively harder as they go up. Another interesting part of this game is that you only have 5 slots for contracts on your board. You can't accumulate more than that, but at the start of your turn, you have to sell off one of your contracts, and then use the money you get from that contract to buy an upgrade. An upgrade is like essentially a way to get a few more cubes when you take your action, or it's a way to get more victory points at the end of the game, depending on the kind of upgrade you buy. There's an upgrade market of 4 cards of each type, and you can choose to buy one, and then it refills it after you buy one. You can also accumulate coins for better purchases down the road. But when you sell a contract, you have to spend at least some of the money to buy one of those upgrades. So you just keep going through the game like this over and over again until the game clock runs down. The game clock's also very interesting. Some of the locations you go to require you to take a time marker off of the game clock. There's essentially a pile of not a pile, but like a board that's full of these time markers. And if you go to most locations on the board, it requires you to take a time marker to have gone there. A few of the locations require you to spend the time markers. So that's kind of a push and a pull. You have to go to some of the places where you pull a time marker off the board and keep it. And then other ones, you have to spend those time markers you've collected. So, like, for example, if I recall correctly, like the Netherlands requires you to spend 3 time markers to go there. So if you're intending to go to the Netherlands, you're going to have to accumulate 3 time markers somehow, and that usually involves going to locations where you take a time marker off the game clock. And that's basically the length of the game. When that board runs out, everybody takes another turn, and that's the end of the game. So it's got this like interactive game clock that has a lot to do with the turn decisions. At the end of the game, you count up the points on all your contracts, the points on any extra contracts you haven't sold yet, and any points you get off of the special victory point cards you bought, and that's your score. Most points wins. It's very different from most UA Rosenberg games. So they're usually worker placement games. Some of his newer ones are very like I would describe them as spatial. He's really gotten into spatial games lately. But this one is very different than all of those. This one is more like a kind of an engine building game a little bit, but more it's an efficiency game more than anything else. You're trying to get the most efficient use out of the cubes that you're getting out of the locations. Where can you go that will get you a bunch of cubes you need for your next contract and also let you fulfill some contracts that you already have? So you're often taking 2 or 3 turns ahead, but then as in any good UA game, other players can completely mess that up for you by going to a spot you want, taking all those cubes, and then you don't get the cubes you need for your next step. So you're constantly kind of having to ad-lib your chain of things you want to do. If you're playing this solo, it'd be easy to figure out a good chain of things to do. But this is not a solo game. It's a game with multiple players. And thus, things don't always go as you want. There is a solo mode that has a bot mechanism that effectively interferes with you, but the multiplayer version of this is the only one I've ever played, and it's a really nice interactive game. I really enjoy it. I think it's different than most UA games, but I would put it as one of his better ones. It's one I'm glad to hold in my collection, and that is Merkator, Merkator.
My one play of this was so long ago that all I can remember is that I'm pretty sure that the Clemens Franz artwork, which anybody familiar with any of Uwe's other release games, very cartoony looking people. In this game, Clemens Franz does the art, but it's like, I don't think there's anything beyond like a Renaissance stock photo on the cover that actually has like anything resembling like items in the real world outside of like, it's like basically going into a storehouse where you've got shelves and every shelf has like the name of the good, and then the good is just like a color of cube. And
the art's very functional, yes.
Yeah, it's like this is like a cube pusher, and
it's better than the cube pushers I play on artwork. I'll give it that.
Well, I don't know where we're setting the bar here, Andy, but I know in this one it's like it was pointed out in our comments that wine and plums are a blue cube, whereas ham and fish oil are purple. And so
Yes.
the colors of those cubes are kind of arbitrary and tough to like match together in your mind. So
it's at the same level as Lords of Waterdeep when you're getting warriors or clerics.
for me to really review this one, just here's my quick review of one play of this game that's probably, I'm going to say, at least 2 years in the past. Is that it felt nothing like Uwe's other games. Hence, I didn't like it. It wasn't, it didn't do it for me. It wasn't good. I didn't have fun. I didn't like it. It wasn't what I was expecting. My expectations were put off. So, there's my excellent review of this game.
It wasn't what I expected, so I didn't like it. Joe's review.
Exactly. It's just, it wasn't what I expected. That's true. And I didn't own it, and I didn't get to play it more than just that once. And so I really don't have anything to say. Like, honestly, this is me dodging a review because I don't have what at least my personal bar is for reviewing. I'm starting to already like feel paranoid about this upcoming topic. So that's all I have to say about Merkator.
I'm at 2 plays. I had one a while back, and then I was in on this game we played last weekend. I would say, yeah, it is quite a difference between, from Uwe's other games, and in a sense is better than quite a few of them. Like, I would put this so far out of all the Uwe games I've played, my desire to play again. Agricola's above it. Glass Road would be above it, and Le Havre, I don't know because I've only played it the once. But I would rather play Merkator than almost any of the new era Uwe games. Like, I would definitely play it over, say, Caverna or Fields of Arl, Feast for Odin. Merkator, just because at least with Merkator, there was a level of interaction there.
Oh, there's a lot of interaction.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
We played this game with a third player in our local group, and I felt like we were all making moves, especially near the end, that were at least partly intended to block what the other players doing. I know me and the player besides Andy, I was sitting across from him and he was sitting across from me, and we were studying each other's boards. I know that was happening because I was witnessing it. So there's definitely player interaction going on.
Yep. No.
Mhm.
Yeah, I really like that. I really enjoyed Merkator. I would for sure play it again.
Well, cool. That's like our real board game review on this podcast. Like the true one, what you came for. And now let's wipe the floor here, Andy. We'll first get. I mean, I don't know. I guess I shouldn't throw any mud at yours because maybe now you'll have more. From what I'm getting, Andy, your continued exploration of this game might be something that people should take note of if they value your reviews.
Yep. Which, if you value my review, it's weird. No, I actually do get people occasionally telling me, it's like, oh, I bought this game because I'm like, you listen to me? God, that's a mistake. Anyway, oops. But I'm going to revisit Masters of Venice because I talked about this a while back as kind of a first impressions. I'm now 3 games into Masters of Venice. And everything I thought about it has held up and gotten better, really. So to kind of quickly go over Masters of Venice again, looks like a Euro game, totally an economic game. There's some sort of worker placement components to it. But basically, you're going to be these merchants in Venice. You're going around buying cubes to either fulfill orders or to sell for money. So you buy those, you do that, all of that. And there's various places that you can kind of accommodate and do these things. It's also pretty cool because it's almost got charters to companies, almost like an 18XX kind of thing. A little bit different though, but you put these pegs in the charters and the charters keep tracks of the price of the cubes, the stocks, and how many orders can be fulfilled, because you can't just sell a cube because you want to. There has to be a desire for that color of cube. And you keep track on all these boards. That's probably the element that is a little bit more fiddly, I think, than a lot of them. But this game is a super, super solid economic game. Right now, I would put it probably in my top 5 economic games. In some ways, I may even like it better than 18xx to some degree as a short one. It's the only thing that sort of borders a Euro game, other than the upcoming City of the Big Shoulders, that I think actually does a stock market correctly, in that the stocks are not just a point track, but you can buy, you can sell, and all of that. And then you tack on, you've got characters you can pick for special player powers. There's a lot of bidding involved to check and get these player powers, as well as turn orders and stuff like that. When you do turn order, it's pretty cool because there's certain spaces on the board that only can be used if you go there. And then there's other spaces that are called shared spaces, where everyone who goes there who took the shared action can go first, but then everybody else gets to do it as well. It's kind of a hidden action selection thing. So I know the last turn we were playing this, like everyone kind of was looking at everyone else going, oh God, where are they going? Because I have like 4 things I need to do to not get screwed, and I can only make like 2 of them happen. Will the other people go to the shared spaces I need to actually be able to finish off what I want to do? And I bet on that, and that didn't quite work out. But yeah, it happens. But there is a lot of nastiness in the game. You can sell cubes to really damage each other, kind of like the dumping of a company in an 18xx or something like that. Loads of interaction. You really got to be playing the other players as well as your own game to do it. There's just a huge amount of levers to pull, but there was some serious differences in this last game I played where people really kind of started to know what they were doing. So the last game I played, it was my 3rd game. Trent was there. It was his 2nd game. The other player, it was his 2nd game as well. And the first time I played this, I felt like I was just struggling to make any money to do anything with. Like, I couldn't buy stocks. I couldn't do anything. This game, like, I had money all over the place. I could really make plans and try to get them to happen. But like I said, there was some good interaction there because the other player at the table saw what I was trying to do. And right about the point that I was about to get myself 8 points, he used his character's special, which is called the Gondolier. It's the one you get if you bid the least. But the Gondolier has a special power, which is when you have the Gondolier, you can flip this tile and you can interrupt turn order and go right then. So what he did is he used the Gondolier and interrupted me and then sold the stocks before I could cause them to do what's called splitting and get all of those points. Completely denied me that, which I was laughing. I'm just like, that is awesome. So, because those who play with me know that, like, I'll cut the tendons out of an opponent, but I'll laugh hysterically when they do it to me as well. So, but no, seriously, it really it went well beyond my expectations of a game. This is hands down the best game I have played this year, period. And I'd say a strong chance of it breaking into my top 10 period games for me. I've played it 3 times. I would play it again for the next 4 or 5 weeks, drop of a hat. If someone says, hey, you've been talking about this, I really want to try. Do you want to play it? Yes, I do. Because there are so many ways you can go about things. And not only are there so many ways you can go about things, like, you've got to pay attention to the board and figure out what is the best way. Just because you have a strategy you think that's going to work, it might not work based on what other people are doing. So yeah, if you like economic games, I've been telling people online, this is a no-brainer. It's still available pretty darn cheap. For crying out loud, I think I got my copy from Walmart.com. Trent got his from Target. Both were under $30. Yeah, if you're an economic gamer, go find this before it becomes difficult to find, because, oh my God, so good. I really, really like this game.
Well, awesome to hear that. Trent, do you have anything to add?
I quite enjoy it too. It'd probably be my best of 2019 thus far that I've played. I mean, new to me in 2019. I have nothing but good things to say about it. It's if you like economic games, I almost virtually guarantee you'll like this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only complaint I can level against it is it's fiddly, and it can be difficult to keep track of things. But there's really good player aids on BGG. If you get those, it won't be a problem. But yeah, if I didn't have the player aids, I would say that the keeping track of things and everything would be difficult. But yeah, get the player aids, you'll be good as gold.
Sounds like a solution.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks, Andy, for giving us the update on Masters of Venice, one that I will definitely have to play considering all the praise that you have been sending its way.
Oh, yeah.
All right. First, an apology that I'm going to be doing a really short review. If you can hear me coughing, it's like when I last recorded on Thursday a week ago, I had I didn't realize it, but that hoarse voice was like a sinus infection that got the best of me over this last week. I actually spent Tuesday and Wednesday at home, sick from work and not from work, but sick and stayed home from work. And I kind of needed it just to regain my voice a little bit. I've gotten a little bit of it back, but anyway, I'm still going to be kind of cutting it a little bit short here. And I don't have all that much to say because I was so sick I couldn't even go to games this week. That tells you how bad it was for me. Instead, I've been playing the Nintendo Switch. And the product that I am reviewing is not so much a game, I would say, as it is an interactive experience that is best described as somewhere between it exists somewhere as a wordless picture book, a work of art, and a puzzle. I'm talking about Gorogoa, a short experience available on the Nintendo Switch store, as well as I believe there's several other places you can find it. Like
there's an app for iPad. I've played this. Okay,
yeah, iOS, it's out for that too. I remember seeing something about that. So this was initially, I think, funded on like an indie fund website, and the design process was more in depth than I think the designer was intending. But it's basically all put together by the artist, developer, gameplay. The individual who's put everything together except for the music and the business side of things. I forget his name, Jason something. But anyway, what Gorogoa is basically you are exploring pictures, and there will, like, at times the pictures will be on a 2x2 grid where you can kind of shift up to 4 different pictures around, and then you'll be zooming in, zooming out. And you can do that like multiple times. You can kind of like zoom in on a picture, and then that'll then kind of open up more places for you to zoom to. And it'll open up more possibilities of, like, for example, books on a shelf that you can zoom in on that then each have their own sort of unique properties that you need to analyze and place in either like sequential order somewhere on the 2x2 grid that kind of forms a larger picture, or place it in such a fashion that one of the, like, some sort of a mechanical working in one of the squares is able to maybe operate other mechanisms around. Basically it's tough to really describe what type of gameplay it is, but it's best if you think about it as like an adventure, point and click adventure that is done like in sort of a 2x2 picture book grid. And the actual things that you're doing it's never exactly clear to me. Like, the story did not really come across that much, but this is an experience to behold in a very strange way, and an enigma from me coming at it from a, like, is this experience worth my time? Is it worth your time? As somebody listening to the show that maybe has been turned on to different products because of some things I've said. And I'm really, like, puzzled as to how to really approach it. It's short. That's the first thing to know. So, like, I think the game costs $15, $10 to $15, somewhere around there. I don't know if you get the iOS, it might be cheaper than that.
Yeah, there's no way I paid that much for it.
Yeah, Nintendo Switch. I think I got for like half price, and I know I paid. I'm pretty sure I thought it was like $7.50. I think it might be $15 on the Switch, which Switch games do tend to be a little higher. Just in general, you're paying a premium to get it on the Switch. I feel like I paid like $5 to $7.50, somewhere around that range. I don't think I paid $10 for it, but I got it on like a sale. It is very short, and I would say though that like when you do find the solutions in this game, there's a certain zen to like I've now played it through twice. And the first time I played it through probably took me maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. Next time I played it through, like I knew all the solutions, but it was still very rewarding to fit everything into place. It has that feeling of fitting together a jigsaw puzzle, though that jigsaw puzzle is constantly changing. And sometimes it's a little frustrating because like you'll be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And it's because you didn't zoom in enough on one of the frames. Like, you're like, oh, that, okay, well, I didn't have all the information I needed. But to be fair, that's in every adventure game. Anyway, it's tries to kind of craft a story that never quite takes shape in my mind because it's not quite sequential. And I guess I'm missing the overarching themes that are supposed to maybe connected, but it seems to deal with like a generation that is affected by a war and then its subsequent rebuilding effort. So, and it seems to take place somewhere throughout the 20th century. Certainly seems like a modern conflict and a rebuilding. Oh goodness. Anyway, that is it's about all I can muster to, that's about all my voice will let me do. But also, it's just tough to really describe Gorogoa in any concrete terms. It's a very abstract experience, but also a cathartic and I don't know. It's just like Zen. It feels very Zen. My first game did not feel Zen because I was trying to figure it out. But once I had the solutions in mind, it was Zen to like experience it. And I wanted to do that because I didn't get the story my first time. My second time, I still didn't get the story because I don't know what the story is. But
the story, like you have to be one of those people that, like wears berets and goes to like a modern art museum and like you come out with like a 10-page paper describing the story of a
subjective meeting. I think that's my way of approaching that, Andy, would be to say it's like a piece of art, like if you try to find a specific interpretation, I think that's going to be much of what you draw from inside yourself and not so much what the actual piece is showing.
There is some like plot to it. I remember looking it up and it was one of those, like, basically it's like, if you remember the game Braid, did you ever play that?
Yes, I do remember it was inspired.
If you could figure out the story of Braid unassisted, you could probably figure out the story.
Well, Braid had like when you finish the game of Braid, it has a pretty big twist. It has like one of those moments like BioShock's, like BioShock's big twist reveal. Would you kindly? That's what I remember Braid ending like. And I don't think there's ever any big twists or rug pulled out under you in Gorogoa. I think it's just more like the like kind of like a capsule of a generation, and a life lived from perspectives of a young boy, an old man, and many of the stages in between.
Yep.
Anyway, Gorogoa. And also there's a monster in it. I don't know what it means. Does
it make more sense than Feudum?
It did. No.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, Feudum is bizarre.
Yeah.
Feudum, I think, has like a plot or at least characters with motivations, and yeah, I don't think Gorogoa has that. But anyway, if that sounds interesting, check out Gorogoa, an experience you can find on the iOS, as well as how I enjoyed it on the Nintendo Switch. So check that out. All right, fellas, what is a reviewer?
Yeah, so I guess I'll propose this topic because I was thinking about this the last couple days as to kind of like what are the different niches for like board game media and where are people kind of at, because we're getting to this time period now where board gaming has gotten big enough that you've got, quote unquote, people doing it now professionally. or in the sense that, board game media is providing people with actual livelihoods. It's not just people doing it because, it sounds like an amusing time, but yet it hasn't sort of fully transitioned to that same level of, reviewer / critic as, say, where movies are and things like that. So when I proposed it, I was thinking like, what are kind of maybe the different categories of that, and at what level of responsibility do you have at some of these levels and whatnot? And I guess to kind of get it started, like if someone were to ask me where I am in board game media, if somebody asked, "Are you a reviewer?" I would probably say, "No, I'm not." I podcast, and on this podcast, I review games, but I don't consider myself a reviewer because to me, what a reviewer is has a bigger requirement than I'm capable of producing. So I guess,
Andy's not a card-carrying reviewer.
Yeah, no, not really. Well, because to be fair, I think to be a reviewer, you got to put more effort into a game and what you're going to say about it than I frankly do. Often like that's often why I call it my first impressions or revisiting or something. Because, even Masters of Venice, playing it 3 times in rapid succession like that, that's an unusual state for me. The only time that's going to happen is if it's a pretty light game I can play with my family and just it keeps in rotation. So like I personally don't like calling myself a reviewer because I don't think I put in the time and the effort to really inform people about a game deeply. And to me, that's what I guess a reviewer is. But then is that different from someone who is, say now, a professional reviewer? So like, Heavy Cardboard, that's where he makes his living, or Man versus Meeple, I think they do it full time too, right? Or Tom Vassell or other things like that. And so I guess I'll throw that out to you guys. Like, what do you think? Like, are we getting to a point where we need a distinction between, someone who's doing this for fun, which is primarily what I'm doing, we've said before, like I do this so I can BS with friends and not waste time on a game night doing that. To where if I was doing it seriously, I would be approaching it much more differently than I do now.
How's that bounce off of you, Trent?
I largely agree. I think it like the job of a game reviewer, I think, is to make it clear to the person reading it aspects of the game that stood out to you and putting them together in a meaningful fashion. I think to do that requires some sort of attention to the game, probably a different kind of attention than you give to it when you're just playing it off the cuff. You have to step back and say, not just like, I like this game or I didn't like this game, or I liked it even more than I like this game because, but like, what's this game trying to do to evoke that response in people? I think if you're doing a good review, you're stepping back a level, and it's a level back from where most people, including myself, go when they're sitting down to play a game. I'm sitting down to play a game solely to enjoy myself. Whereas a reviewer is stepping back and asking, what is this game doing to make it so that people can sit down and enjoy themselves? And then they're presenting that in a way that's theoretically valuable and interesting to the people listening to it or watching it or reading it or whatever. I think that's what a good reviewer does. I think that mediocre reviewers like myself just talk about the games they like.
Well, I'm going to approach this from the counter perspective of, so let's start with media creators. We are media creators.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like we're creating media, which involves, first of all, like putting together the pieces that make up, kind of like banter and some aspect of chemistry that at least becomes enjoyable enough for us to record this and enjoyable enough for some folks to want to consume it. So, I mean, we're putting out some sort of media. And I've tried my hand at some other formats, written, video, and and the audio just seems to be what comes as like kind of the nice like mid ground in between other forms, which tend to be a little bit more like, things that I can't necessarily always work out a time for, if that makes sense. Like the other forms seem to be almost more organic for me, in that I like a George R. R. Martin, I need my time, and I don't know when, I can't really work off schedule if I want a written review or a video review, because it takes an amount of effort that I just need to sort of like push forward. Whereas like, a conversation and banter as an extrovert, I can turn that switch on. And that's what makes the show work.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, at some level, like we're media creators, but what does it mean to be a reviewer? And I mean, like it's beyond something that I think really, I mean, everybody comes at it from a different perspective. And, in a capitalist system, your reviewers are the ones that call what their products a review, and it's accepted by their consumers. And that's, I think, that's about as far as you can really take it with, like anybody can call themselves a reviewer. I actually did not mean to prepare for this topic, but I just watched a reviewer who in the midst throughout the review was constantly sort of berating and belittling their own abilities to make the review. And and so when somebody does that, right, you immediately want to sort of take just, to be the balancer. You're like, you're not so bad, dude. And actually, like, I found quite a few things to enjoy about the review. I was looking for the positive aspects. Maybe that's a good way to maybe you guys have turned on to something I should start doing, which is like telling people I'm not actually a reviewer. So that way people are like, oh, come on, you're a reviewer. And here's why, you should really like stop putting yourself down like that. But the review that I just watched, was just kind of like the only thing I could find about this game I was looking for. And, it included like more perspectives than just the person, just that reviewer, like this reviewer went out of his way in this case to get perspectives from the other individuals he played with, multiple perspectives, different age groups, and even included like a little ukulele version of the Batman theme song. So
wait. What you're saying is you weren't looking for video reviews of Brave Little Belgium?
No, not it's not
okay,
what I was
that might be a little insight there. I'll just let it slide now. Never mind.
Okay, so I should probably watch a video review of that, and there'd be an example
it's been deleted. So
it's gone now.
Oh, okay, it's gone. Okay, gotcha. All right, well, yeah, I guess that's a
for the 3 listeners that got that. I hope you laughed.
No, the review that I'm pointing to, and the person that you should go and do a little greasing of the ego so that he keeps putting things out is there's a review by Dan, the one that does on Board Game Breakfast, or at least used to do the Dan and Core segment where he plays games with his daughter and, usually kids games. And I feel like I can feel him wince on that Board Game Breakfast show because he's frequently reviewing a Habba roll and move. And he's like, well, it's got the, he's like looking for the positive things. This was a review of Batman Gotham City Chronicles, which I'm going to be hyping. And I thought as far as the review went that, of course he was aware of some of his own faults, because what specifically, from what I recall from the video, what specifically seemed to bother him about his own style was that he was searching for the words, and the word that came to his mind was good. And he's like, this aspect is good. And he said something like, this is why I don't do reviews, because the reviewers are supposed to have the words that, I think what you mentioned, Trent, it's like you bottle up the frame of mind that the experience of the game left you in, and you try to recreate that with whatever media that you've got and put people in that frame of mind. And then they can decide, okay, I've been there before. I'm okay with this frustration they've described, But a lot of it has to do with, the pessimism or optimism of the reviewer themselves. Where are they at? Are they looking for things that, like sometimes I start playing a game and I'm just looking for everything about it to rag on, just because for some reason it struck me, it just was not, and I can't really describe it, but I start finding all these little things to nitpick. And it's not always fair to the game, because that's not the way other people approach it. The same way, I don't always have the right words to describe the games I absolutely love. So I look for all those little tiny little positive experiences that can hopefully build up to that same feeling that I was experiencing at the time. And I think that walking people along the journey of your experience with the game is maybe what it is to review. I mean, what else is a review, right? I mean, I do a test review in my class, and it's just like, here's all the stuff that'll be on the test. So I guess,
Here's the thing. I want to point out something. I think that there are two different kinds of reviews out there. And one of them I feel like is where people are doing like you're saying your test review. They're going through and reciting the rules of the game. And then maybe throwing on a paragraph at the end that's a very broad, this is what I liked about the game.
Mm-hmm.
Those are fine, but the ones I actually care about and am interested in are the ones that basically like throw all that out the window and focus much even beyond like what I like about the game, but like, how does this game do that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I like this about the game. Okay, well, how does the game do that? How does the game achieve what it is that I like? Stepping back and doing that makes for a really interesting review to me, but that's a lot of hard work. And that's the reason, like, I don't think a lot of people do it. I think just listing the rules, that's pretty easy. That's what I do when I review a game on here. It's the more in-depth that takes the real time that really makes a good review. In my opinion, anyway, the reviewers I care about are the ones that actually take the time to take a step back and do that.
I think that Shut Up and Sit Down kind of taps into that because they sometimes use theater of the absurd to like, it's almost like if they have if there's a complaint about a game, like for example, if you were to play Village and have such a complaint, like, this is a themeless Euro, like there's aspects of that, of the system, like there's mechanical decisions that you're making that involve like killing off members of your family strategically. And the way that they're sort of like melodramatic, family members with numbers taped on their chest chasing each other around, like because their time is up. Like that to me was really like something that took.
Is that their Blood on the Watchtower review? If I'm remembering right.
Village is what I'm thinking of. Village.
Oh, okay, Village. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I've not seen the Blood in the Watchtower one. There are ones that like just try to like capture, some of the thrills that they get from playing the game, or the sort of absurd, like if this were a real life experience, like especially with some of the Euro games, like how would you, how would this actually look?
I will say I'm not the biggest fan of Shut Up and Sit Down for a number of reasons, but I will say that they do the stepping back and trying to evoke that step back that I'm describing. I think they do a good job of that. And I think the reason they're successful is they simultaneously do that while having some good videography skills at the same time. Yeah. I think it's that combination that makes them work. Like I said, I'm not their number one fan. I've had a couple quibbles with some of the stuff that they do, and I'm not going to get into that. But I think they do that really well, and they're a good example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I can remember when they, back in the day and when they were first doing them, when they talked about K2, one of the things that made me really interested in that game was they explained how the mechanics of the game evoked emotions in the players and how those mechanics are trying to evoke emotions of mountain climbing. Which, yeah, I think that's definitely more than you get out of a lot of reviews. And then, the other thing I'm thinking about too, kind of is, the term reviewer, I guess, right now in board games is very like nebulous, kind of, because there's a lot of people that call themselves reviewers, but there's significant differences in the caliber of the reviews being done.
Is this your roundabout way of saying that I suck at reviewing, Andy?
Oh, no, because I'm awesome at it.
Roundabout? Yeah. What do you mean by roundabout?
Yeah. Right here, Andy. Jeez.
No,
Gee,
but
Andy.
In all realism, like, one thing, that could be said is, I would not call myself as a reviewer, but for example, I would have no problem with you referring to yourself that way because of your work doing things like the Salin coefficient, which is very much a review style that I didn't like. I tried to do something like that once. I was like, God, I hate this. So like, I don't think of myself that way, but no, I'm not going there at all. But I think, there are people that are now making this, in a sense, their livelihood. And that kind of then, I don't know, like I don't know where quite I'm going with this, other than I kind of wish there was like different terms for it that made sense. Because like, you know, I guess, you know, if you think about critics or reviewers in movies and food and other stuff, there seems to be like a difference between someone who's doing that professionally, like they're given a little more gravitas or something, than someone.
I think you're looking at the difference between a reviewer and a critic.
Maybe. I don't know. I just, you know, wonder if there's a way to delineate the difference between like, you know, what I'm doing on the podcast and say what Shut Up and Sit Down are doing or Heavy Cardboard. Like there's differences there.
Yeah, I agree with you, but part of the problem is on the internet, everyone can call themselves whatever they want. So
yeah, it's true.
It's like
and
the words are made up and the points don't matter. It's the internet.
Yeah, and it really, I think, you know, whatever that, like, I think what every reviewer is trying to create is either, you know, either they're trying to go where their audience wants them, you know, is the audience behind the wheel, or is it that individual who's trying to just sort of pursue what they see as the ideal of, you know, what somebody'd look for. And, you know, maybe you call it criticism. I've used the word criticism frequently. And what I'm finding more and more is I'm not so comfortable saying criticism as I used to be. I know that sits wrong with people. And I understand, like, because there's like a big difference between critics and creators, like somebody who can really create something. And I really think that, you know, before anybody even embarks on criticism, they should try their hand at creating first, because it certainly is a slice of humble pie when, you know, when you have, you know, what your baby being like, you know, wrung through by, especially by, in my opinion, a lot of times what it takes to be a reviewer is like, you got to be dumb enough to open your mouth. You know, you have to be dumb enough to suspend your like inhibitions for a little while and actually try to say something about a game and realize that, like you said, Trent, points are all made up and doesn't matter.
Yeah, I want to jump in on here a little bit. Back in about 2014 or 2015, I had a YouTube channel where I reviewed board games, and it got up to about 1,100, 1,200 viewer or 1,200 subscribers. I was getting probably 500 views by default on a video just by putting it up. I felt I was going along pretty successfully, but I stopped doing it. And the big reason I stopped doing it is I wasn't happy with the quality of the output of my videos. And I felt like in order to keep growing my channel, I needed to pump them out at a fairly fast rate. And that push and pull between needing to get more content out there to grow my channel versus making stuff that I thought was very valuable or good or anything at all, and also against the amount of time I had in my life, made me decide I didn't want to do this. I think that part of the issue is the way board game media is right now, is in order for people to make a living at it or else at least make some good money at it, you have to be pumping out the reviews. You have to be pumping them out like daily or close to it in order to be able to
regular schedule.
Yeah, very regular schedule.
Regular releases.
By regular, I mean once a month ain't going to cut it, people. It's going to be a lot more frequent.
The ones that I see doing it professionally, at a minimum, you're talking 3-4 a week.
Yes. And the thing is, I think that it's hard to do really good, high quality reviews at that rate.
You had to do like playthroughs. Just to get content, there's all these playthroughs and stuff, and I guess, you know, there's many, like, that's just a different. It's a totally different ballpark.
And I think unless you're really good at a playthrough or a teach video, like Rodney Smith is, he's really good at it. Most of the people out there doing it are effectively reciting the rule book and making a video out of it. A lot of the like how to play is basically someone practically reading you the rule book. A lot of the ones I see anyway, they're just, you can see the components and like that maybe helps. I don't know. But so my point is like a lot of those channels that are trying to get to the full-time status of a reviewer, they got to pump out the content. So either they're pumping out bad reviews because they haven't given enough time to the game, or B, they're putting in other content like playthroughs or unboxings or things like that. It's just kind of what they have to do. That's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's because, I mean, ultimately, I mean, if you're going to be doing it, you know, professionally, quote unquote, then you're talking about getting paid for it. And as much as the hobby's grown, like, you know, board game, the amount of money flowing around in the board game world doesn't even come close to, you know, say the video game world or something like that.
I made $21 in a month as a YouTube video reviewer.
Yeah,
$21.
I did $21, boys. I was racking them up.
That's right.
Well, it's like
That's running ads.
you know, Shut Up and Sit Down got asked to do like one of those career day talks at like an elementary school because all these kids wanted to be YouTubers. And when they all asked him like, should we be a YouTuber? Could we do that? And like they were like invariably like, no, you should not do this for a living. Like it's awful. You're like, you know how many years we had to do this for free before we could even make a living at it at a minimum level. But I mean, that's what, to some extent, I think that's what it takes to get, you know, the quote unquote professional polished reviews. Like, you know, the thing is, if you want to start making media, the barrier to entry into that is actually pretty small. Like, you know, you can start throwing stuff together with a fairly reasonably priced mic, laptop, and camera. However, if you want to actually like, you know, make it look good and super good quality, like that barrier becomes cost prohibitive for a lot of people pretty dang quick. You know, the kind of cameras that are being used by a heavy cardboard or a Shut Up and Sit Down, you're talking hundreds, if not potentially in the 1,000 range, you know? So there is that to it.
Mm-hmm. And then you can just, you know, like keep taking stabs in the dark, keep trying things that, you know, are challenging and you know, like projects to be finished. And I guess what I'm doing here is trying to open the window into my mind and how I approach the reviews. Like, and then like for me, it's, you know, since it's a supplemental thing that I do on the side, like reviewing in addition to podcasting, and I still call this, you know, like the media that we create here at some rate is an audio review of what we're doing. And I mean, like there's no protection on that word, you know, it's not like, and I know that like there are certain people out there that call their content reviews that absolutely make any content that I feel we can create here pale in comparison. You know, like it's much more professional. You know, depending on what criteria you approach it from a production aspect, from a you know, just planned out content aspect, you know, from a bang for your buck, like entertainment per second, like how many different like nuggets of gold come through in the conversation. Like these are things that like others can really, you know, they maybe they do it through planning. Maybe they just, you know, they've got a background, you know, like more classes taken in audio and broadcasting. And, you know, specifically where I could use it is in how to, you know, like I need some better user-friendly aspects to Adobe, because I think that Premiere was just a little bit more. I mean, there's a few products that I put way more work into than I ever thought I was going to. And then when I went back and reviewed what I had done, I felt like you, Trent. I felt like, geez, like this was a pet project that I spent like 6 hours on, and it sucks. And it makes me mad because there's like 2 or 3 things that I just was spitballing here that I didn't really understand. And ultimately, I think that the downfall of this review, you know, and I'm not the only one, you know, there's YouTube comments, a few came in that were kind of like confirming what I'd already felt, which was that, you know, this was a bit of a misstep, and it was a costly one in terms of how much of my own gusto went out the window in this. I'm
going to speak from my own career as a writer here. To get a piece of content right and really good takes a lot of time. It just does. If you want to knock something out of the park and get it on all angles, you got to invest a lot of time in it. There's no way around that. You got to invest a lot of thought time, a lot of writing it out, a lot of editing, a lot of revision, a lot of more thought, a lot of more revision, and on and on and on and on and on. If you do that in the board gaming sphere, you're not going to make any money at it, because that's just not going to work. You will get, I mean, you might have a nice high average number of viewers per video compared to others, but it's not going to be enough for you to be able to make really quality videos or any sort of content and make money at it, not for a very long time, until you have a large backlog of quality content. And I mean, that's just the reality of it. That's how it is.
You just cheese it, dude, and you end up with like with a audience that's essentially just copied and pasted from some other, you know, like when you.
Or you do an unboxing video of a game you know nothing about and trash it because you don't know anything about it. I mean, there's some people that do that.
I hope that doesn't get.
Well, for the 3 listeners that know what I'm talking about, but up Chang.
Okay, but back to so.
Yeah, no, this has nothing to do with you. I know what Trent's talking about.
Has nothing to do with
I'm going to
you.
assume this is the Brave Little Belgium review.
Yes.
Okay, unboxing.
But
I'm sorry, I can't help it. It really bothered me. So
yeah,
somebody who just didn't have the frame of reference to really be able to appreciate it at all is what it sounds like.
Yes.
Well, and that's the other thing too. Like, you know, the other difficulty I think in being a reviewer is, or if you're going to be a reviewer, rather than just throwing crap out and doing a media creation, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But if you're going to put your opinion out there, like, you better be prepared for a backlash, because I guarantee you, just by the act of you saying an opinion, other people are going to come in and go, "You're stupid." Like, they just are.
Yep, guarantee it. Guarantee it.
Well, especially if you point out something as a flaw, and that flaw specifically is something that is kind of just assumed as a part of the product that you're reviewing. This is like an inherent feature in all games of its type, and yet I'm going to ding it for this. It's like, why are you reviewing this type of game? You don't get them. That's one of the first things I think people look for is like, does this person get the type of game we're talking about?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like, and that's the thing. And there's so many areas of gaming at this point that are coming more and more to light. 18xx and war games don't just exist in these weird dark corners where Eurogamers fear to tread anymore, right? And so, yeah, and I think not everyone can like all kinds of games in a sense like that. I think like there's a lot of types of games that I have no interest in playing, let alone talking about, and like they would just be on deaf ears for me or whatever. Like I could say something about them, but it's not ultimately useful to anyone because I just don't like that kind of game. I don't get it. But
are you talking about Exploding Kittens?
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, I'd say yeah, Andy. I'm gonna answer for you, Andy. Yes.
Yes. We'll throw Cards Against Humanity or anything like that in the same box, right? So, but here's the thing: like, as a if you're gonna be on quote unquote a reviewer, like, do you have to have the ability to analyze that in the context of the type of game it is?
No. You just need people to watch you. That's it.
Yeah. Well, we'll put it this way. Like, the reason I was thinking about this is because overall, like, if you're talking reviewers for most things, I don't pay attention to them. So, for example, like, I don't understand film critic kind of stuff. Not that I have a problem with it, but I just literally have no knowledge of that. Like, I never really bothered watching, Siskel and Ebert or anything like that. But is it expected that a food critic or a film critic, if they are, quote unquote professional at it, that they can look at any kind of film in a context of it and actually speak intelligently about it?
Oh, it's a good question. I mean, like, food critics, it seems like there's like so many different aspects you can take. You can be the guy that reviews like fast food hamburgers in his car.
I think those guys are going for comedy more than quality review of their fast food burger.
Yeah, like they're taking it way too seriously, right? Or you can go with like the Anthony Bourdain aspect, which is like the worst food I've ever had in my entire life is a chicken McNugget. And, like, I'm here to try to culture you heathens and introduce you not only to the food, but also the cultures they come from. Or you could be the aspect of somebody who's just like a total complete food elitist that wants to try to, sling as much negativity as they can at anyone that they deem unworthy. And this is usually due to some sort of subjective, like list or just like some perceived inadequacies, some perceived like lazinesses maybe. I don't know, Andy, like reviewers of films helped steer me towards directions of experiences that I like will have for the rest of my life. And I'm not saying that like there aren't occasional like I love the cartoon of The Hobbit, the one that has like the folk music in it. I'm thinking of those things, that has like the kind of dirty sort of animation that's like a very, like all the edges are kind of like, got a sort of dirty look to it. Everything's covered in soot. And I love that. And yet it was like totally panned by a reviewer I highly respected. And then at the same time, like my favorite movie was absolutely like, it was loved by the critics, but nobody went to watch it. Like nobody saw Children of Men. And I think that's just an absolute, it's one of the biggest, just like, it's a shortcoming of our culture, of the culture of the entire world. The Children of Men did not get the respect it deserved. It's like, it's an amazing gem of a movie that got totally passed up.
I mean, like what I guess I'm getting at is like, and I don't know, I'll have to make up like the quote unquote artsy movies because I never watch those.
Children of Men is not an artsy movie.
It's about men having babies, right?
Andy, watch it. Watch it. Homework. I'm giving you homework. And you know what? And we'll do a review on the next episode. Actually, before the test.
I saw a clip of this, and I think I put it on like an Amazon like watch list.
Is that going to be an unsolicited review there, Joe?
Potentially. It's going to be standards-based. I'm going to be standards-based grading Andy on the next episode. Standards-based grading Andy's reviews. Teachers out there all just clenched and puckered when I say that. Yeah. Standards-based, we're going there.
Oh, Jesus, don't even. Oh, God.
Yeah.
No, it's.
Got proficiency scales all ready to go for you, Andy. Is your review a 1 needs improvement, a 2 almost meets expectation, a 3 meets expectation, or 4 exceeds? Spoiler alert, you can't get a 4.
Yeah. No. If you're in Ames, they always get 4s because if your parents who are professors don't think you're performing at A level, they get all freaky crazy on the teachers.
Because of GPA and scholarship.
No, like literally, that like presidential award for like excellence in education thing that they give you if you have like a high enough grade point average.
Mm-hmm.
When my daughter graduated elementary school and they gave those out, literally 3 children in the entire elementary didn't get it. Because
goodness,
my guess is the teachers were like, I don't want to deal with the parents. Exceeds.
What about the 3 kids, though? I mean, wow, what kind of a message does that sound like?
That you're
like, you're troubled. Yeah,
that your parents aren't trolls.
Yeah,
maybe you get the integrity award. Like you there's either the president's award or the integrity award. Yeah. Choose your pick. Call it a participation award if you want.
The Ames school district just opened and rolled them to Boone, and it was fine.
Wow. I didn't realize we were going to be getting out the knives there, Andy.
Or my school.
I heard you. All right.
But anyway, no, like legitimately, like, would a movie critic be able to or be asked to like talk intelligently about, say, Star Wars as they would say Schindler's List or different critics and different types?
Well, what about the Phantom Menace or the Clone Wars? Because I think, Star Wars certainly like has its supporters within the critics field. Like there are many that respect the accomplishments of the original Star Wars. So I don't know, Andy, and honestly, where it lies is the content that you're creating essentially takes on its own life, right? It's its own life that sort of is derivative of, so call it the orcish version of the elves that are the actual product themselves. So we are the orcs
out of the ground.
More or less, yeah. We like when board games get buried underground and go there long enough to decompose and die, they like rise from the dead on the Night of the Living Dead as reviews.
Yeah, I think the point I'll leave with that's important is whether you're listening or watching someone who's calling it a review or a first take or anything of that, the best thing you can do for yourself is take some time to figure out who that person is and what their personal tastes are, because going through board gaming, that allowed me to figure things out a lot better. If I knew a certain person just played games that were not in my wheelhouse, like, then okay, I just ignore that person because they're not going to produce content that's meaningful to me. So I think just do your homework, figure out who the person is, look at what games they're reviewing and what they say about it before you trust them on a random game. Except me, because I'm always right. But, just kidding.
Yeah, because Andy's always right. That's how I knew how to disregard that entire
kids all the
statement.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Or students. Be like, you're not always right. I'm like, my detention slip says otherwise.
Wow, that's a great way to manage a class, Andy. Yep.
I definitely
tongue in cheek a little bit, maybe. Well, all right. That's. I suppose that I think we've dug up enough mud on reviewers to make sure that they stay buried. So let's get on to hype, because you know what? Looking on the bright side of things and the positive experiences you might get from these products could be what actually makes your day and gives you the light at the end of the tunnel to carry forward. So let's get this started off with. First off, let's hear from you, Trent. I owned this game for a while, brought it to game night, wanted to play it, never quite got that to happen. I believe.
Okay, hold on you got to give me just a second here.
You or nah?
Okay, I got it. Now I got what I was going for. I didn't expect me to be up quite yet. I usually have a tab of information pulled up on the game before I start talking about it, and I don't right now.
Well, I'm sorry, dude. I can you're getting the tab.
I'm good now.
Okay.
So I wanted to hype Yunnan. I believe is how it's pronounced. It's a game by Aaron Hogg. I picked this up in a trade on a board game trade. Somebody threw it in to complete a trade, so I was not really sure about it. I heard good things. It was on my BGG wish list at a very low level because I didn't know a whole lot about it, but a couple people had mentioned it was good. And I picked this up and I read the rules, and I was actually really quite interested in it. It sounded like there was a lot more going on. It has a really interesting bidding mechanic in it that sounds like it creates a lot of domino effects of like cascading bad things happening to everybody, which is the type of thing I really love. It sounds like it's a perfect information game. Like there's nothing hidden once you start playing. Mm-hmm. Everything you need to know is out there. And there's a lot of like, if this person does this, then this is going to happen. And then there's a lot of, like I said, effects that can happen that cause a cascading of bad things to happen to everybody. I'm really interested in getting it to the table. It's got nice components, but it's a lot of wood pieces. It's the style of Euro that has like a number of wood pieces in a few different shapes and different colors. And the pieces are very basic. It feels like a very old school Euro. It feels like the kind of Euro I would have opened up in the late 90s or early 2000s, and it would have been a type of component I would have liked to see in the box, like a lot of good solid wooden pieces and stuff. But the mechanics of it was really got me interested. I probably would have wanted this more had I known more about it. Basically, it ended up on my wish list because a couple of reviewers I like had said good things, but I didn't know a lot about it. And now that I do, especially given the how the auction bidding works, I'm really intrigued to get it to the table.
Sure, yeah.
Do you still have it, Joe?
No. I think
Is this the one about like tea or something?
Yeah.
I have not played, but I've heard.
Yeah, like I said, I heard good thing. I heard a couple good things about it like a couple years ago, and I threw it on my BGG list. And I keep a lot of games that like marked at like 4 or 5 if they're like things that I might be interested in if the situation is right. Mm-hmm. And like I was working out a trade for another game. It was a family game, and this guy like basically just threw it in to make us agree.
Yeah.
And yeah, and once I got it and read the rules, I was like, wow, this sounds really cool.
Jason Levine, I think, at one point said that this is like one of his top favorite games or something like that, if I remember right, when he was doing that.
Okay, Joe, well, we're going to play it, and you can just sometime soon, and you can decide whether or not you regret getting rid of it.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't getting played, so it's tough to regret, but yeah. If it's something that you really enjoy and you like,
he'll say it's really awful right at the end, and then reevaluate that opinion after he plays it with Jeff Gamble.
That's what usually happens.
If I play a game with Joe,
it's tough. If I play a game with Joe, it's terrible. But if he plays it with the same game with Jeff Gamble, it's great.
I'm trying to think, is this like a Pax Porfiriana thing? This is because of Pax Porfiriana. What ends up happening to me sometimes is that people listen to my review, find all the ways in which I was wrong or a rule that was played wrong, or something, and then they're like determined to like steer me in the right direction, and that's actually been successful. Many times, like I am looking for the wrong thing, and when I know what to look for, it helps. Like what filter I'm using.
I have a similar problem in that, like, I try now to game night when people ask me if I like a game to be like, I'm holding this opinion, because like it takes me a while to like get my brain engaged with something. Like, so for example, there's very few things that I really outright love the first time I do it. Like I can like buy a new album of music and be like, I don't know about this, but like within 3 or 4 days of like looking at it and listening to it and like processing it, my brain's like, oh no, wait, you like this?
Yeah. That's music is my brain like to a T. That's me with music. That's why I'm like, I don't understand music reviewers, because one time I tried to like buy a Rolling Stones magazine that was like the 500 best songs or something, and I listened to them and I was like, these, like, not all of these, like, I don't think they're in the right order. Some of these I just don't like at all. Like they're just like, they actually don't even sound like music to me. Like my brain does not view this experience as pleasant whatsoever. And so much of it's tied up into like the culture behind it too. Like right now, the kids, when I was practicing tennis today, they were listening to like what the more recent rap is like. And I don't know what's happened to rap, but it sounds now like everything is just like really mumbly, like repeated, like all the lines have the same cadence. They're just repeated the exact same thing. And it'll be like that exact same cadence repeated over and over and over.
There's a really good video about that. I need to find that for you. There's like a good video about why that has happened.
But yeah, that's like me for everything though. Like
it doesn't even strike me as music. It's like people mumbling, and if I listen closely and I try to hear the words, all I hear is like bad words. Like that's all my brain can pull out of this like mumbo jumbo of like this dark swirling. And but I don't know if that's what it actually is supposed to be. And I'm just like, I remember there was a time when I thought like, there's a lot of music I've quote unquote come around to. Maybe I'll come around to that, but I don't know, man. Like I kind of like the rap that like samples music from other genres and then finds like a cool beat to put it to, and then like tries to like wrinkle it into, a more personal experience about their own life. I don't know. To me, there's a lot of different directions the art form can take, and this stuff just seems to be all about like the same topic, the same mumbled line over and over and over.
Well, for me, like that's literally everything. So like one of the things, having learned that about myself, is I really, really try to not initially say any opinions about anything I do the first time, because like I can come off as bad, like hating it. And then after I have time to really process it, I'm like, oh no, wait, I actually liked that. It's just like a thing with my processing speed on it. So like I've learned to try to not say anything on anything, just be like, it was interesting. I tend to now try to be neutral, just be like, it was interesting. I need to think about it a little bit. Because I literally do. There's not a lot that I jump on immediately and love or hate. Mm-hmm. And the bad part is, being a normal, stupid human being, if somebody pushes me, I tend to then go to the, I didn't really like it because it was different, and it takes me more time to like incorporate difference.
So speaking of that, Andy, you're hyping a game that you've already played.
Yeah, that's because I'm going to play it the second time, hopefully. So, so I'm just hyping the experience playing The Fog of War by Jeff Engelstein and Stronghold Games. So I've played this once with Trent. It was very much like a learning game. Like there were several rules that we had questions about, and a couple things I did wrong on setup, but I could kind of see through my rough teach and play like that there was kind of a gem, I think, there. So now in the second play, my goal is to really see what I think this game's trying to do and how it does it. And I'm really looking forward to discovering that, because my initial impression / instinct to this is there's something kind of interesting in this game, and I want to make sure of that for myself. And what is it? I find interesting, and then bring that back to the podcast and say, okay, so after some time of looking at this, here's what I've actually found out.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're kind of hyping the, you're sort of aging and getting to the point where you can appreciate more about the game because it's not that first play.
Yeah, and that's kind of where, that, and I think I've hyped all the games I've pre-ordered, so.
Okay, well, because you didn't have any other content. Thank you, Andy, for validating what you did.
I'm hyping games that I haven't played yet. Yeah, so if you heard about this game called Goa, it's real. No, okay. Anyway. No, but honestly, I am really looking forward to it because I've had this one sitting on my shelf a while, and I'm really looking forward to the experience of really trying to do it right, peeling it apart and seeing kind of what comes out of that.
Cool. Well, I'll finish off our hypes here with just, what I guess the direction I always take these hypes is something that struck me, something about this. It's well, there's something that my brain is processing, and I'm processing something about Batman Gotham City Chronicles. I already reviewed a review of it earlier, but I just opened the product, right? And here's the first thing. How the hell am I supposed to get this game to game night? It is okay, so it's 2 boxes, and it is set up in such a cool way that I would love, I want space at the top of my game shelf to just display this, because there's no text on the box. It doesn't even say anywhere on it heroes box, villains box. It's just a picture of all the Gotham City, all the Batman heroes on one, and all the villains on the other. And it literally, these 2 boxes, you have to have both, content from both of them to even play the game. All of the tokens are in the villains box, but then all the heroes are in the heroes box. Literally, it is a asymmetrical game where you need the villains and the heroes to play, but it comes in 2 separate boxes. And each of these boxes is together, I basically could fit them into a well-made board game carrying bag, tote.
So worse than Gloomhaven?
Bigger than Gloomhaven together, I believe.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So, I mean, Gloomhaven is all of the content at once, but it's all in one box. This is 2 separate boxes. And now, don't get me wrong, I think that, it reminds me very much of Mythic Battles Pantheon, but Mythic Battles Pantheon was made to have a core game that could be played, and you had all this auxiliary content from the Kickstarter that was separate. This is just okay, we know we're only making a Kickstarter, so we can just go ahead and divide this however we see fit. Let's do a heroes box and a villains box, mainly for the presentation on people's shelves. We want this to be something that stands out as an art piece in their collection. We want people displaying this. We want people walking into their game rooms and being dude, what are those boxes? And I think they nailed it for that. But ultimately, I don't want to carry this game anywhere. It's the only game I bring with me. And it's got a 60-page rule book.
Oh,
This
nothing.
Yeah. GMT laughs.
Well, but it's a 60-page rule book and then an additional 60-page scenario book that you need. So, there's that.
Now we're talking.
Here's the thing. This is a game.
Frontier, so.
This is here's where I'm thinking. This is headed in the direction of the Fantasy Flight's older games, their StarCraft rulebook that's 48 pages, and it's this could have been 12 had this been really, there's nice diagrams on some pages, but then some of it's just all of the words and none of the proofreading.
Because I have the best words. It's good.
We have the best words, and ultimately that's what a reviewer has, the best words, and we have them here on the Good, the Board, and the Ugly. It's why people keep coming back to us.
Yeah.
Right, folks?
Anyway, though, is this 60s Batman, the cool animated series that was way better than all
that one?
Oh,
that
really?
Okay, basically, that's comic book / the I don't know if it's specifically only the animated series, but it certainly calls to mind that it's
the best
in that same
stuff that was ever made back when I was a kid watching it.
Yes, that's how I would also classify it. That's why I went for this, because I thought.
Then I found out the horror of Mark Hamill being the voice of the Joker, and that took a year or better for my brain to put together and be okay with.
Yeah, to me it was more of an impressed feeling that he
Oh
could.
no, I was impressed. Like he had there's no better Joker than Mark Hamill doing that voice, man.
Oh, you're gonna say that, Andy, and now you're gonna tramp on Heath Ledger, whose Joker is
comparative.
Andy, I know now why you don't consider your stuff reviews, and I agree with you.
The best Joker was in Suicide Squad.
Ah!
Yeah,
no, Jared Leto is such a talented actor, but that was the worst. He made Joker into just like this brainless thug.
Yeah, I don't know what they were. I have more questions than answers about Suicide Squad, just entirely from top to bottom. So,
I think that if you really think, I think if you think about it, you're already like stepping into the weeds with Suicide Squad. I think it was meant to be.
Why did this happen?
If you're thinking about it, you already did harder work than the producers did.
Yeah,
thankfully,
in
terms of non-Marvel comic stuff, the HBO Watchmen series looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They have a trailer out for HBO Watchmen. If you haven't seen it, you need to go look at that trailer, man. If you're into the comic book stuff, so good looking.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not.
You go get the director's cut of the movie, you can see it like glowing blue penis scenes.
I figured that would come up. Yep. Well, we'll end it on that note then. So it's been great talking with you guys. Apparently, reviewers reviewers know the right buttons to press. That's one way of putting it. So, thank you for joining us on this episode of The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly. Have a great week of gaming. Catch us next week here on The Good, the Bored, and the Ugly.
Good night, everybody.